It's not every day you see a nation put the leader of another nation on trial. It's just pure high-stakes international drama. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, the very first day of the U.S. trial of Venezuela's Nicolás Maduro. And let me tell you, it kicked off not with a plea, but with, well, a declaration of war.
I mean, listen to that. I am a prisoner of war. That's not guilty. It's not guilty. It was basically the first shot fired in what's shaping up to be a massive legal and political battle. With just that one sentence, Maduro basically threw the entire rulebook out the window.
So to really get the sheer weight of that statement, we've got to take a step back and look at the just incredible fall from power we're talking about here. This isn't just a change in job title. It's a complete shattering of an identity.
And the contrast, it's just so stark you can't ignore it. Think about it. 1 minute, you're in the presidential palace. The next, a federal courtroom. You go from being commander-in-chief to just an inmate number. And maybe the most symbolic thing of all, that presidential suit and sash are gone, swapped out for a bright orange jumpsuit. It's like a picture that says everything you need to know about this fall from grace.
And you have to understand, this wasn't an accident. The whole world was watching. This image was carefully, meticulously crafted to send a crystal-clear message. That orange jumpsuit, it's designed to strip away every last bit of presidential authority. In the eyes of that court, and frankly the world, he wasn't a head of state in some political disagreement. Nope. He was just another defendant facing some very, very serious criminal charges.
Okay, so if you're him and the entire system is set up to strip you of your power, what do you do? How do you even respond? Well, Maduro's answer was to just reject the entire system. And that really became the core of his whole strategy on day one.
See, by refusing to even enter a plea, he wasn't just trying to stall, not at all. He was making a really fundamental challenge to the whole thing. He was basically standing there and telling the court, "You have no power over me. I don't recognize your right to try me like a common criminal. I am a captured leader of a rival nation." Which, of course, brings us to the big question, right? Is this just a desperate, last-ditch act, or is it some kind of calculated 4D chess political move? I mean, what's the actual goal here? Declaring yourself a prisoner of war inside a U.S. federal courtroom.
Well, here's the thing. This has almost nothing to do with a legal defense. It's a political statement, pure and simple, just played out on a legal stage. It's got a few key goals. First, it's a direct challenge to the court's legitimacy. Second, it's all about reframing the narrative for his supporters back home, casting himself as a martyr, a hero, fighting against an imperial power. And third, it's a clever way to try and sidestep the actual criminal charges by just recasting the whole thing as an act of war.
So Maduro clearly had his strategy locked in, but you better believe the prosecution did too. They walked in ready to go, armed with a very specific and, well, very powerful legal playbook. And what they're using is something called a standard kingpin prosecution. The whole idea behind this is to treat the target, in this case a head of state, not as a political figure, but as the head of a massive criminal enterprise, like a cartel boss or the head of a mob family.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's pretty much a 3-step process. Step 1, you target the leader. You go right for the boss, not just the lower-level guys. Step 2, you work to dismantle the entire network, hitting them with charges that cut right across their power structure. And finally, Step 3, you seize the assets. You follow the money and you cut it off, crippling the whole organization financially. It's a full-scale strategy to bring the entire thing down.
And this is why the prosecution's strategy is the perfect counterpunch to Maduro's prisoner of war claim. See, by framing all the charges in purely criminal terms, we're talking drug trafficking, corruption, money laundering, they're trying to take politics completely out of the equation. The narrative they're pushing is, this isn't one state versus another state. This is simply the law versus an alleged criminal.
Man, what an explosive first day. It really sets the stage perfectly for everything that's about to come. These opening moves, they tell us so much about the long trial that's just getting started. So, when we boil it all down, what are the big takeaways from day one? First, we have an incredibly defiant defendant who is absolutely not going to go quietly. Second, we have a very determined prosecution, and their kingpin strategy is locked and loaded. Third, it's clear the courtroom has become a political battlefield for a much larger conflict. And finally, let's be real, this arraignment is only the very first step on what's going to be a very long road.
And that really leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. This case is about so much more than just one man or one country. It really forces us to ask a pretty fundamental question.
When you put a president, former or not, in the dock, is it just that person who's on trial, or is the very idea of international justice itself facing its own kind of judgment?